Hello and welcome to the Sensual Being podcast with myself, your host, Jolene Whiting. I have been a pole dance teacher for nearly 20 years. I'm also a yoga instructor, and my favourite pastimes are connecting to my own sensuality, connecting with the world, and connecting with animals as well. In this podcast, you'll find new and inventive ways of how you see yourself, connecting yourself with others, and also how you see and view the world around you. In this episode today, we are going to be looking at what it means to be in your feminine power. Masculine and feminine energies are in all of us, and also diving in to what has happened in the past with the witch burning situation and how it still affects us today. Hello, you wonderful sensual being, and welcome back to the Sensual Being podcast. It's beautiful to have you here today. And I don't know if you've noticed recently, but the signs of spring are just divine. And the clouds in the sky today have been those real clouds. You know the ones I mean, really white, really fluffy, and a gorgeous blue sky behind them. But they've been real clouds, and if you know what I mean, then yeah, you would have started to notice them. And I swear the energy has been different around the last few days as well, which is very interesting when you start to track these sort of things. And the reason why I talk about nature and the change of seasons quite a lot is because there is nothing more connective than our connection to nature. And you can do this anywhere. You can just look up at the sky, or you can look at the blossom or the leaves on the trees. It does not have to be difficult. You don't need to go out into the wilderness and camp for 7 days on your own. I mean, you can if you want, just be careful. But our connection to nature is everywhere around us. So even if you live somewhere that's really built up, like London or in a busy city or town, you will see nature everywhere. So never underestimate the power of our own connection. It is all around us. And like I say, all you have to do is look up. That's your starting point. Just look up. Today's topic is one very close to my heart, and I feel like it can get misunderstood quite a lot. And I'm going to be giving you my own view on this, which is about how to be in your feminine power. Now, this is not necessarily just for women. This is for men as well, because we have both masculine and feminine energies running through our bodies and through our souls. But we live in a very masculine world. So it's very target driven, very progress driven, success driven. Now, I'm not here to say those are bad things. And I'm not here to say, oh, you're really manly if you're a woman and you do all those things. I'm not here to say that. I'm here to find balance. I'm here to give you permission to find balance if that is you. Because you can find, as a general majority, we can find ourselves just staying in these masculine states of energy quite a lot. And when we tip the scales into the more feminine, sometimes it can feel a little bit uncomfy, and it can feel like you're not doing enough. So I'm here just to give a little bit of insight on that and the acceptance of being masculine and feminine, being both dark and light. We have all traits within us. It's a bit like when people try not to experience certain emotions that they deem as bad. There is no such thing as a bad emotion. It's just how we label it and see it. And if we can not suppress anything, but just let them run through us, like we do with what we deem as good emotions, like happiness and joy and pleasure, if we can just allow all emotions to run through us, we will automatically become a lot more balanced. So when we talk about feminine power, I feel like there's a lot of stereotyping around this. And this is what I came across a few years ago, and I've sort of always come across stereotypes quite a lot. So we have light and dark. So a little bit of stereotyping from my point of view around the light side of feminine is overly forgiving, saying yes when we really mean no, fawning, as it's called, trying to please people. Meek, passive, naive, soft. Now, I'm not necessarily saying all these are bad. I'm saying that this is sometimes what's perceived as feminine, or just generalizing women, And I also believe that there's sort of stereotyping for dark sides of the feminine as well, which would be things like angry. Oh, she's so angry. Oh, it's her hormones, rage, whore. You can't trust her. Oh, you've got to watch your back with that one. All this sort of cattiness and slyness. And actually, I don't think either of those descriptions I've given you are very good. I think you might be sitting there thinking, oh, I don't resonate with that at all. Does that mean I'm not light or dark with my feminine? And I think it's just been very stereotypical. Jokes are made and, oh, she must have PMT and things like that. And I actually feel that this is more what it actually is. So the light side of the feminine, I would say forgiving can be in there, but still having boundaries. Nurturing and caring, but not being a pushover. But to be nurturing and caring. And it's not to say that if you are a man that you don't have these traits. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that these, where masculine energies are very much like progression and success driven, logical mind, less on the intuition. It's not to say that any of that is wrong, because none of it is. We're just trying to unpack what it means to be in your feminine power. Other parts of the dark feminine, for the light, let's come back to the light. Creativity, and to be in a creative flow state. And sometimes to try and get in that creative flow state, we have to get out of our heads and into our bodies. So, things like walking, dancing, movement. Anything can get you out of your head and into your body. It's not, there's not one type that fits all. I've just focused on those for the purpose of this topic. And there's also the dark side of the feminine, and the dark side of the feminine is not bad. It's a bit like your emotions where you have happy and sad. None of it is bad. It just is part of you. It's part of who you are. So parts of the dark feminine are things like the wildness of your being unapologetic about who you are. If you're a little bit weird and quirky, if you want to put your feet on the earth every day and touch some trees and sing to the sky, don't be afraid to hold back. And that's being unapologetic about who you are. The sensualness and sexualness of the feminine is just beautiful. And it's something that we can often try and suppress. Otherwise, you could be labelled as a bit of a whore. And it's like, I don't agree with that. You can embrace your sexuality. And you don't have to be labelled as anything unless you pick a label. Yeah? I like the label of being a slut. I don't go around and sleep with other people's boyfriends. I enjoy being labelled as that. And that's my label. I did that. So if you have a label that you like, that's fine. But if you don't want a label, then you don't have to have one. Maybe you like being called a whore. I don't know. Maybe that word does work for you. But reclaiming these words back if they fit you. And if they don't, then putting in your boundaries to say, I don't want to be called that. No. So there's aspects of the light and the dark feminine, and there's nothing wrong with them. And to be honest, even some of the stereotypical ones, but the stereotypical ones either range from being passive, naive and a pushover. I thought you were women. You should be nice all the time. It's like, fuck off. Leave me alone. And then you got the dark side. She's angry. Oh, she just swore. Oh, and the rage in her. She's a bit of a whore. It's like, no, just leave me alone and stop labeling me, So this is where I feel like this episode is quite important to actually to be able to embrace who we are and not feel we have to suppress it, particularly if we've been given any of those labels that really put us in a box. And we shouldn't have to accept that. But to be able to accept that you have both light and dark is the key. It's not to suppress any part of it, because we have all of it. You know, there's a lot of what I do is deemed as very feminine energy. So things like the pole dancing, the circles, the meditation, the way I do the yoga flow, it can be deemed as quite feminine energy, but that is accessible to everyone. Because trust me, I've been in a lot of masculine energy. You know, I've had, PT sessions. There's nothing more masculine energy than a PT session, and it's just full on, but there's nothing wrong with that. And it's great to be in that energy. When you feel like it, it's great. Same as all of what I'm saying here. When you feel like it, it's great to be in this energy. And it's allowing yourself to do that. And, there's even been, I follow a couple of things on Instagram, which they look really good, but they do like men's circles, and they're men's only circles. So like we have women's circles, this is men turning up to sit down and to talk, to do a meditation, to share, to tune in to themselves and their own inner wisdom. Because don't forget, men are really pushed down with this, to not talk about their feelings. Don't cry like a girl. It's so toxic. So toxic. And I honestly feel that the world that we live in, it's very hard nowadays to actually say, I'm a woman, or to say, I'm a man. It's really hard to do that from either gender. We're sort of getting labeled as just, I don't know, just nothing now. There's toxic masculinity, and I don't believe in toxic masculinity at all. I believe in people with toxic traits. There is no such thing as toxic masculinity. It is individual. It is person to person. What about all the men-hating feminists out there? I like to think I'm a feminist, but do I hate men? No. Do I get along with everybody? No. Does everybody get along with me? No. But that's okay, because we're not supposed to. We're not supposed to. But it is the same. The toxic feminism are really hating on men. And it's individual. And this is where we've got to remember it's individual. And I know that can be hard to hear, particularly when you feel like you keep going through the same thing again. But it is individual. And I would urge you, if you are somebody who is going through the same thing, like maybe in a relationship, and you've been in a few relationships in your life and they always seem to turn out the same, and it must be them. It's both of you. You will both be attracting the same things, the same traits into your life. And the sooner that you take a step back and realize, you're like, oh, okay. And it can be, when you go quite deep into this, it might not even necessarily be anything to do with you in the sense of this lifetime. It could be when you look at traits, when you look back at your parents and your parents' parents, and you go back, sometimes you can see the same habits and rituals within relationships or life being repeated. And that is where this comes from. And this is where, being aware of this is key. Because if you're aware of this, you can break the pattern. But if you become unaware, which so many of us are, okay, I'm not exempt from this. So many of us are unaware of all of this that we bring forward through past lives, or some sort of trauma or style of upbringing that we had, and we sort of continue that on because it feels normal. I remember one of my exes said to me, and I said to him, look, I don't want to argue with you. Why are we arguing? I don't want this. I don't want to fight with you. And he said, well, it's normal for couples to fight. And I'm like, really? Why do we have to fight when we could just talk to each other? And he didn't get it. But his parents fought all the time. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I started to get it. I understood why he thought that. And I remember, because I don't like arguing. I will sit down and have a discussion, and we talk to each other like humans and respect each other and come in from a place of love, even when it gets heated. But I don't believe that couples have to argue. You really don't. You can talk to each other. But I remember someone posted up, and it was someone who was very close to me, and she posted up something on Facebook, and it said something along the lines of, oh, couples who don't argue have a lot of secrets. Well, you know what I'm like, don't you? Do you think I just let that go? I messaged her personally. I said, I'm not sure I agree with that. And I said, why? And she just didn't really answer and just took it down. Because I thought, you're generalizing everybody. That might be your experience, but actually that isn't the truth. Yeah, you know what I'm like. Of course, I'm not going to let it go. I am someone who will have the awkward conversations, and I'm going to tell you now, I don't feel easy about it. It's not easy. It's actually really hard, and it really hurts me sometimes when I have to have an awkward conversation, particularly when it's with somebody that I care about, and I'm thinking, why are they saying this to me? I need to say something. Oh dear. But I will say it. And you know what? Something springs to mind, a quote, and it's, easy choices, hard life. Hard choices, easy life. And that's how I feel about some of the conversations I have. They might be quite hard in that moment, but actually going forward after that, life is so much easier all round. And that's just something you can apply that. That might be one of my intentions coming up soon, because I think that's so potent. You can put that to so many things in your life, and it really does fit the bill, particularly when you need to do something that's difficult. So yeah, where were we? Getting back to the topic of being in your feminine power. I mean, what I've just said there was boundary setting and, talking to people about things that are uncomfy. So that's all part of it. But when we sort of go back to past lives, what our ancestors went through, and when you think about things like witch burning, and this started hundreds of years ago, and these weren't the witches that were burnt. These were just women. They were midwives. So can you imagine someone who actually helps women deliver babies was deemed as a witch and burnt? You're like, what? No, that doesn't make sense. Or women who were healers and actually helped heal people, and they were killed. And then to turn on each other created the massive sister wound that we carry forward today. And when we realize this sort of thing, we can see how being in our feminine energies and feminine power has been deemed in our psyche in the past as being very dangerous. We've got to keep our backs up. We've got to be careful. We've got to look over our shoulder. And we're not even just looking for the men. We are looking for the women as well. Women have been known to be catty and bitchy, and I don't think that is our natural state. I really don't. I think that is stuff that is brought forward from the sister wound of turning on each other to actually protect ourselves. So women back then in the witch burning time, particularly if they thought maybe they were under threat, they may end up grassing up their neighbor, because, a witch wouldn't grass up another witch, would they? So the person who ever grassed them up was obviously a clean human being and allowed to be here. So burn the neighbor and she'll be protected, and this is something that we carry forward, and it's something that I think that we can't fathom it. It just feels so unnatural and unrealistic, and yet it's happened. It's our past. So to be in competition with each other and to not build each other up, but to try and bring each other down is huge. It's huge amongst women. It can be amongst anybody, but women to women. Oh, when I've worked in strip clubs, I remember I was chatting to a guy and he really wasn't paying much attention to me, and I said, I'm not going to get a dance, am I? And he said, no. I said, okay, is there anybody here who you wanted a dance from? And he pointed to another girl. I said, okay, yeah, okay, give me a minute. I'll go over and I'll have a chat with her and I'll send her over. Thinking, that's nice, isn't it? So I did that. And she flew at me. And I thought maybe she thought that I meant that we were going to dance together for him. And I went, oh, well, no, we're not dancing together. He just said that he was interested in you. And so I thought you could go over at some point whenever you're not busy and you can get a dance. She was so rude to me. Well, I just walked off. I thought, right, I'm not doing anything nice for you again. But again, it's like the back was up. She was, I don't know what she's carrying forward with her from her own life or past lives, but she was not somebody who wants to empower other women. She didn't even want me to even give her a lead. I mean, come on. It's money, isn't it? You're in a strip club. It makes sense. And also, I've had dealings before, particularly in my classes. You're going to roll your eyes when I say this. So when I've done a performance or anything like that, not every time, but when I've done performances in my pole dancing classes before, because it's so lovely to share our craft with each other. It's so lovely. When I watch my friends dance and my students, it's just amazing. It's so amazing. It's so beautiful. But I've had comments before, just before I go on, and it'll be things from other women who say, she's here to show us up. And I'm like, God, no. I'm not trying to show anyone up. That is not what I am about at all, or anybody else that I know who loves to share their craft is about. But this just goes to show how deep this sister wound goes. It really does. It cuts in deep. And whether you choose to believe what I've said and how I've said it or not, you can't deny the cattiness sometimes that women have to other women. And it's so scary. It's so scary. I just even when I was stripping, I was leading with my heart. I just wanted the best for people, and if that meant I could get them a dance and, someone wanted that, great. I just don't understand why other women particularly want to bring down other women. So something that I've thought about lately, which I don't really know what to do with this information yet. So I'm going to give my insight to you. Maybe you can come back to me with something. But when they were doing the witch burning, and they were doing the hangings and the fire, burning them and stuff, I remember hearing something a few months ago, and they said, you can often see marks on the neck from previous lives. Now, two things sprung to mind. One, I have a birthmark on my neck, and I thought, oh, I wonder if that's why I feel it's so strong for me to share my voice now, because I feel safe. I don't know. And also, on another weird tangent, because I do like a weird tangent. So, I don't know if you noticed in my pictures, but I actually wear a metal collar, which my partner gave me 10 years ago. And the pattern on it actually looks like twisted rope. And I love this collar, but I'm very confused. I don't know. I'm just going to leave that there with you. It's a bit of a pickle in my head. I don't really know what to do with the information that I've created in my own mind. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with that. If you have any insight to me at all, I'd love to hear it. And I really hope that this has given you more permission and insight of how to be in your feminine power and why it's important. Why it's important to be able to embrace who we are in this moment, in this lifetime, to share with others and to bring each other up. That is what it is all about. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and remember, as always, to lead through your life with your heart and to live with intention. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please do share it with your friends and on social media. If you have the time to rate or review this podcast, I'd be ever so grateful. If you'd like to follow me on Instagram, you can find me at Jolene Sensual Being. The links to my YouTube and to sign up to my mailing list will be in the show notes as well. I look forward to speaking with you again very soon.